Hi, I'm Danny,
I'm Sam.
and this is Business in a Brew.
We'll be poring over business stories,
And talking about things that interest us in the world of business.
so we'd like you to just take a few minutes out, listen.
Yeah, we'd love it if you join our conversation with us. Hello.
Hello.
Today, I'm going to talk to you about the poster child of excessive lawsuits. Damn it, that would have come out so much better if I could have said it properly. The poster child of excessive lawsuits.
Ooh, okay.
Which is a very misunderstood thing, and it makes me feel very bad for this poor 79-year-old lady. So it's the story of the McDonald's coffee cup and the burning.
Right. That's a horrendous story.
It is a horrendous story.
Yeah.
So in February 1992, 70-year-old Stella Liebeck was a passenger in a car. I think she was with it was like a nephew. They bought a cup of coffee each, and they parked up so that she could add cream and sugar.
Right.
She put the coffee cup between her knees and pulled the lid towards her to pull it off the cup. And as she did that, the cup tipped and spilt on her lap. She ended up with third-degree burns, 8 days' worth of skin grafts, and 2 years of treatment.
Right.
So she was very badly injured. I mean, we all know, well, you'd hope your cup of coffee is hot.
Yeah.
But this was like hot. Like really hot.
Are you going to go into how hot?
I am going to go into hell hot.
Yeah.
Hell hot?
Hell hot.
It was hellishly hot.
Right.
So all poor Stella wanted was McDonald's to basically give her $20,000 to cover the medical expenses. She didn't want to go to court.
Right.
But she's kind of held up as this person who does frivolous litigation for the sake of it.
Right.
But it wasn't about that. It was about the pain she'd been through,
Yeah.
and the stuff she'd been through. So McDonald's kept their coffee at between 180 and 190 degrees Fahrenheit.
Whoa. So your standard kettle boils at 100 degrees?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they kept theirs above boiling. Generally, other people in the industry served it at 20 degrees lower as a standard. McDonald's argument was the reason they kept it that hot, which was basically too hot to drink, I mean, it would burn your throat, is because most of their coffee was bought by commuters. Therefore, when the commuter had travelled to their final destination, the coffee would still be hot when they'd arrive.
Right.
A secondary argument being that it gets better flavour from the bean, which is true to a degree, but not that temperature.
But the bean doesn't... Oh, right. The bean in the percolation process?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I thought you could scald the beans by the water being too hot.
Yeah, I think it was too hot. So yes, higher temperatures will get you a better temperature. You don't want to put cold water on a coffee bean. You want to put hot water on a coffee bean.
But not too hot.
Not too hot, exactly. However, there were also some internal reports around the hotter the coffee is, the longer it took to drink, and therefore they had to give away less free refills. So a balance sheet question rather than anything else.
Right.
So just as a bit of a comparison, 190 degree temperature liquid will give you third degree burns in 3 seconds.
Right.
180 degrees in 12 to 15 seconds, and 160 in 20 seconds. Right. So the difference in just 20 degrees, which is what everyone else serves at, is enough time for you to probably get the wet liquid, the clothing off of you, or do something to save you getting those third degree burns. Some statistics say, and this came out in the court case, that...
Hang on, third degree burns?
Yeah.
So there's first degree, second degree, third degree. Third degree is the most severe.
Yes.
That's where your skin comes off.
Yes. That's why she had to have so many skin grafts. Some statistics say that even though McDonald's knew it saved them $1 million a day over just the US franchise outlets, so it was cheaper to do that than settle. And they'd had over 700 complaints about the coffee being too hot.
Right.
That's how many people complained. And that they still did nothing because it was cheaper
to handle the litigation than it was to lose
absolutely
value from increased numbers of sales.
Absolutely.
Sorry, not sales, but more.
Yeah. So the general public...
More free refills.
Exactly.
Right. Oh, my goodness, right. Okay.
There's something about the amount of time you could keep it in the pot if it was at that temperature. It didn't degrade as fast. but I couldn't find the actual numbers that relate to it when I was trying to research it.
Yeah.
Poor Stella became a little bit of a laughing stock for, basically not realising coffee is hot. But that's not really...
Which is, we all laugh about the caution contents may be hot.
And it's now a lot bigger than it used to be. So it used to be quite a small...
I remember laughing at that statement on a hot cup of coffee.
Because you're like,
thinking,
what else would it be?
Why would someone not know that the contents are hot?
And a lot of those warnings are based on things like this, where stuff has to change. The thing is, McDonald's aren't going to change the temperature at which their coffee is kept. So the only thing they can do is make a more prominent warning.
Have they changed since? Have they changed the temperature since?
Or
would that be too much of an omission? Because actually, they do really good coffee.
Well, they did claim they brought it down a bit, but that they also did a lot of training around the handling of hot drinks with their staff, and made the warning larger and more sufficient on the cups, which they felt the rest was up to common sense.
The staff maybe aren't the ones that are being...
Well, no.
You take a cup into a car.
Maybe it's when they hand it over and go, just be careful, love. This is hot.
Yeah.
Don't know. In the end, when it went through court, the jury found that Stella was 20% at fault, which was the putting it between your legs. McDonald's was 80% at fault.
For serving coffee that was too hot. Yeah.
Ridiculously would burn your throat if you swallowed it at that temperature hot. So Stella got $2.7 million in punitive damages and $160,000 in medical expenses. And the judge calls the chain's conduct, as McDonald's chain's conduct, reckless, callous, and willful with their burningly hot coffee. And it's one of those stories that you see it and people do take the mick that someone was being, it's coffee, of course it's hot, what are you talking about? The damage that was done to this 17-year-old woman.
Yeah.
I mean, bless her.
Yeah, sure.
That was a lot to go through.
But what about also, because I know that there has been almost, but it's passed into folklore, the acceptance that there is always going to be the mick taken out of people who don't exercise common sense, and that litigation's gone bonkers.
Yes.
But cases like this were kind of held up as they're almost held up in ridicule.
Yeah.
That she was just sponging or, making something out.
100%. She was just sponging.
Probably did it herself deliberately.
I think someone in the US government called it frivolous litigation. It was a period of time that was characterised by frivolous litigation.
I do remember it was ridiculed. It was ridiculed by, I can't remember the name. There's a kind of a Saturday Night Live type show. There was a commentator who basically, because it's kind of coming back to me, I can't remember who it was, kind of like Larry King type person who has a large audience and is taking the piss out of people, as they come in and sit with the audience often.
Yeah.
And really kind of had a go at, wasn't Larry King, but that kind of person that was ridiculing the situation and this person.
Yeah, Stella.
Stella, poor Stella. That's an absolute nightmare, and then it has made things like litigation for damages almost a repugnant issue that lawmakers don't want to handle. And
but interestingly, you wouldn't do it in this country. We don't do that sort of thing. We go, spilt a cup of coffee on myself. That was foolish. You wouldn't it's just not something. We're not a litigious nation.
No, I do get that, because you would put it down to your own stupid fault, wouldn't you?
I wouldn't have gone into was it too hot to start with?
No, it probably wouldn't have crossed anyone's mind over here. But over there, there's always where there's
blame. There's a claim.
Blame. Yeah,
the other way. We'll get it right eventually.
Well, yes. Where there's blame, there's a claim, but also where there's pain, there's blame, there's a claim.
It's nice, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. Is there any more on that in terms of
I mean, there is loads more, but
because it became almost like a cultural thing to take.
Yeah, it's really interesting
to tear it down.
If you're researching it these days, there are loads more. A lot of the resources you'll find are law societies and legal institutions who have written blogs about it and articles about it.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to find some of the more in-depth data because buried under so many people who are using it for SEO purposes.
Yeah.
So it was quite hard to get through it and
to attract litigation cases to their own.
Pretty much, yeah.
To their own businesses.
Yeah. So it was quite hard to dig much deeper. I could have been there for weeks just researching this one, and you could have talked about it for hours on end.
It's a pretty interesting kind of area, though, isn't it?
But it did change the way litigation law worked. I don't understand enough about how it worked before and after to tell you exactly how it changed it, but I know that it changed it. It's kind of a bit like the Wild West, really, isn't it? It's pretty much anything goes. Yeah, if someone can sue over spilling their own cup of coffee on themselves, anything does go. Yeah. So it just... But nothing takes it away from the pain that she must have suffered. That must have been, she doesn't sound to me like she wanted to make a big thing of it. No, she didn't. She absolutely didn't. Everyone makes it sound like she wanted a day in court. She wanted to be famous. She didn't. But she wanted her... She was 79 years old. She was 81 by the time it got settled. Probably didn't want anyone to make a fuss, and as you said, she wanted to have her legal bills. Not her legal bills, her medical bills. Yeah. Poor woman owed $20,000 for medical bills. She just wanted... And they offered her a ridiculously small amount on that. They did, yeah. Was it the price of the cup of coffee? I think it was a little bit more than that, but not much. Yeah. And, 2 years of medical treatment and trauma, and she just... Quite. And that actually is where the insult starts to then brew, isn't it? Yeah. And then you talk to people, and then you can understand that someone would take that up. Yeah, I think you'd have to be talking to the right litigation person at the right time for them to go, I think you've got a case here. But how many lawyers would see that as actually an opportunity? And I don't mean necessarily ambulance chasing lawyers, but you've got a friend who's a solicitor or a lawyer who knows what you've been through. Chances are they would want to fight that on your behalf. Yeah. That's a tricky one. It's really interesting because as a British, I couldn't do it. It wouldn't have occurred to me. I would have just gone, oh, I'm such an idiot, I've spelt coffee, but then we have the NHS. Maybe I would have had to pay for it. I've got all this agony going on. Yeah, it's just my own fault though. I love a bit of self-flagellation. And none of us would know how hot that coffee really was then. And actually, I also didn't know that you could burn in 3 seconds at 190 degrees. But how many other people has that stopped from that case? Has stopped people from being less careless? You mean how many people has it stopped being careless? You've been careless, being more careless. I've done it. Yeah. I didn't do it with this. I did it with something. I did it with a Coke or something. Did exactly the same thing. Put it between my legs, pulled the lid towards me everywhere. Had that been 190 degree coffee, I'd have 3rd degree burns. So we all do it. Yes, you should put it in the cup holder. You should do it, Kit, but you just don't, do you? You're in a hurry. Yeah. I mean, they did stop. At least they weren't driving at the same time. No, it's not like she squidged their knees together. Yeah, quite. I was doing donuts in the car park. A landmark case, crazy case, really crazy case. And I do remember laughing about it, saying, those Americans, they have no bloody common sense, do they? But actually, can't even drink a cup of coffee without spelling it on themselves. It's terrible. Yeah, but actually it's less about that. It is less about that. It's more about don't overheat your coffee just because it saves money. Yeah, and that's what it came down to in the end. Absolutely did. 80% at fault, it's their fault. Yeah. It's only 20% common sense at fault, though. Yeah. Fair point. Okay, great. Thanks. Good one. Thanks for that. It's all right. No worries. Thanks so much for listening and being a part of today's episode. If you like what you've heard, or if you feel there's something missing, or you want to ask any questions, please get in contact. And if you love listening to us as much as we love talking to you, subscribe, download, leave us a review. All the love helps. Thank you.